Okay, so we are officially recording. We'll give Ken a few more minutes to join on. I just chatted with him not too long ago, so.
Okay.
Well, I got to get that screen off my screen deal. Geez, I was almost late to a meeting. I just couldn't believe that. But I'm on time, right?
It's
Time still?
5:30 on my clock. So
Oh,
we're on time.
jeez. Okay. Let me see. Well, we can bear with it. Sorry about that screen deal I got going on there. Okay, it's 5:30. I guess, is everybody here?
Yeah.
Sandy's. Oh,
All the board
Sandy's there.
members.
Stapleton. Okay. Okay. We can call the meeting to order. And I guess we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Don't have a flag here, I gotta admit. So John Wayne is on my desk, so I guess I can look at him. I don't know, but I'm sorry about that. Maybe in the future we can think to get flags for everybody to have on our desks.
There you go.
But we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which
stands
stands one nation under God,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
I have no idea what happened to my video, but so this is pretty new for everybody, and I guess if I gotta get that changed. So the way we'll do I'm gonna fix that ghost thing that's happening to me. That's not coronavirus. I know that's what you're thinking. He must be sick, but it's not. The way we're gonna do this, as far as how we'll conduct the meeting, well, so far it's pretty good. In a lot of meetings I'm in, if you're not muted, then there's feedback and such. But so far we're pretty good. It's customary in these things just to mute yourself when you're not talking. It just makes sound better for everyone else. And we have guests on. They're muted unless they're up for public comment. Do we have any public comment?
No, we didn't have anybody who got to me with any public comment, so we're good to go.
So you can see we have visitors there. Welcome to our first ever electronic board meeting. So we'll move on to reports. I don't know. I'm sure you've been. I told Sean and I were visiting earlier, and now I seem like I spend more time Zooming than I do working. You know, they're so easy to do, and now we have many Zoom meetings. But this is pretty convenient, and I'm glad we can see everybody today.
Yeah.
So we'll start out with special ed. It's hard to, I only have one screen, so I can't.
Yeah.
Special ed, distance learning options.
Okay, and so I will I'll unmute Emily here in a second. So, you know, one of the concerns about districts as this is going forward is that special ed students who require special services by our school, by law, are gonna miss out. I mean, it's a very legitimate concern. Some states are doing things such as not allowing any instruction until this is addressed. Idaho has been perhaps a little more loose with that. I don't know if loose is the right word, but our goal in the district has been we want to continue instruction with kids as much as possible. With that said, that does not mean that we get to ignore or that we should ignore kids with special needs. And so Emily Benzing, who's our special ed director, has kind of been leading the charge with this and coming up with a plan for how with this distance learning it might look and how we can make sure that kids are receiving the services they need. So I asked Emily to come on for just a short little bit. I unmuted her and just kind of share with you and then of course with everybody in attendance as well. Just a general overview, not getting into specifics about specific kids, but a general overview of what it is that we're doing to kind of address that need.
So the last week I've been involved with several webinars and on some Zoom meetings in regards to special education and how it would look moving forward. My understanding is that we come up with a plan for each individual student on how we're trying to meet their needs from the IEP and how the other students are getting their educational needs met. So one of the lucky things that we have is that we started speech online this year. So the students are very familiar with that format. And so we got the okay that they could do their therapy at home with a parent. Now, I called individual parents and had their okay on whether or not they want to move forward with that. Or other districts are using more of a packet form, kind of like how the teachers are doing with curriculum with some of the lower level kids at the school. So I've had a mixture of parents wanting either a packet or online services. And we've had some major generosity through the district that a couple of my kids will get the opportunity to get internet into their home so they can continue their services and continue to access the online curriculum that the teachers are going to provide. So the elementary looks a little bit different than the junior high and high school plans. And that is because it's going to be based on what the individual teacher is doing with their classroom. And so some students, I'm going to have the opportunity for them to get some tutoring in the afternoon, whether it be through myself or a paraprofessional using the technology that we have available. And some of the students are getting some extra reading assignments and things to do online. I'm currently developing a resource packet for the elementary students that they will be able to go in and find some online resources to practice their skills with their parents. So that's kind of how it's looking at the elementary level. Does anybody have any questions?
Nope.
So legally, if I do this, I don't have to change the eligibility in IEP. I can write a written notice laying out the plan for the individual student. I'm documenting contact with the parents and their agreement to the plan, and I put it into a written notice, and that, from my understanding, will cover us legally, because nobody has gone down this path before with special education. So the State Department just said document that you're trying to meet their needs. the best you can. At the high school level, I will have a Google Classroom. I have a schedule out there already to the kids of when I will be meeting with them individually to work on assignments, to read textbooks with them, to read novels with them, the things that the general education teacher is assigning that they need help on. And they're very familiar with that as well. So I think it'll go pretty smooth. They'll be doing their online classes with their, let's just say, their English teacher. And then I have time set aside for them to come into Google Chat and to discuss with me their assignment if they need any help. Just like they used to do at school. They would grab their English book and they'd run upstairs and get some help from me. So I have it set up junior high and high school where I'm meeting with students in the mornings, Monday through Thursday from the junior high school to make sure they're getting the assistance they need with the curriculum that they're working with.
Perfect. Thank you, Emily. It is a concern. The documentation is incredibly important. I know there's other reports in states of, special education lawyers already contacting parents. I don't think we're seeing that here, but we just want to make sure we're covering all our bases and providing kids with services that they need. So.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Sean. That's really important, and there's those legal aspects that are really part of that special ed thing. And so that's really great, being proactive in this department. Okay, I think Sean's going to update us on some of the technology aspects of our education plan.
Yep. So technology-wise, I wanted to first kind of give a shout out to some local businesses that have done a good job of helping us out in our time of need. One of the biggest need for us isn't devices. When people ask us if we're a 1-to-1 school, sometimes I tell them, well, really, we're like a 2-to-1 school. Our elementary has Chromebooks and iPads. Our high school has Chromebooks and then also some laptops that they use. But the question really becomes internet access at home. And so we did a survey a long time ago, actually, before this was a crisis or people were talking about schools about internet access, and identified some families with some need. And then when it was time to close school, I contacted both Airbridge and Inland Cellular. And Airbridge is providing this week some temporary free internet for families. Again, just kind of based on a determination by me at this point. But obviously, if families are feeling that need and Airbridge is a possibility, they've expressed interest in continuing to help. They're paying for the antenna, they're paying for the router that would go in the home, and then for 3 free months of service, which would get us into June, end of June. And then would be re-examined at that point. That's high-speed internet. It's video quality. I mean, you can stream video easily at those homes for homes that don't have it. Now they can't reach everybody, and so I reached out to Inland Cellular, a local cell phone provider, and they stepped up and donated 5 what are called MiFi hotspots. We're paying a reduced subscription fee for those for 3 months, but no contract for the district or anything like that. And then, hey, Jackie, glad to see you made it home. So we have 5 of those, and those are hopefully to kind of bridge that gap of for some people, it's not necessarily about not being able to afford internet, but it's about they live in a location where it's really difficult to get internet, or the internet is not unlimited. So the plans that we got through Inland Cellular are unlimited data. The speeds on those aren't necessarily going to be lightning fast, but they're gonna make it so that families don't have to worry about getting throttled back if they use too much data. And then I also, while I'm talking about companies that helped out, this is less kind of about the students' internet, but CompuNet and Cisco, who kind of help us to manage our network as well, stepped up and got us some license for a VPN so that some key staff members, Marcy, myself, Jackie, Kelby helping out with tech, can actually remote in to our actual desktop and work off of the computers or off of our servers, off of our network, just like we're sitting at our own computer. And so it's a really great feature that we're putting in place for those teachers. So CompuNet, Airbridge, and Inland Cellular have all kind of stepped up to make things happen for kids and teachers as well. With that said, I mean, sometimes there's just no perfect fix. Some people live in a place where the internet is going to be really tough. And so with that, we've also added an internet connection from Airbridge that is actually 5 times the internet connection that we have right now through First Step. And so it's a gigabit up and a gigabit down that will be broadcast from the school parking lot during operational times of the day. So say from 6 in the morning until 9 or 10 o'clock at night. Students will be able to pull into the parking lot. Again, this is our parents with kids would be able to download what they need or interact in class and then return back to home so that they can maintain social distancing, but it's just one more option. You know, sometimes families with a lot of kids, even if you have fast internet, it can bog down. And so it gives one more option that could also tie in with when lunch pickup is. And so, you know, we'll keep learning. I want to encourage constituents who are either listening or might listen to this later in the recording, that if internet is an issue, we will just keep working to find solutions, whatever those solutions need to be. And we won't give up. We're not going to quit until we get every kid what they need. So that's kind of on the tech end. On the internet end. The other end is, you know, we've been built for the last several years for Chromebooks to go home with junior high and high school age students, 7 and 12. It's been a pretty good model. Kids have taken very good care of the Chromebooks. They've lasted well, but we've never been set up to have the elementary students take stuff home. It's really easy to filter content on the Chromebooks, whether they're at home or whether they're here. iPads present some other challenges, and iPads are more expensive, and elementary students don't always, you know, there's that risk of how they're being treated, especially when they're so expensive. And so it's new for us, and we're trying to figure that out. But we're navigating it. I worked hard. I have to give a shout out to Kelby Hartberg, who's really stepped up with his help on the tech end. He's done a lot, more than me actually, with the actual devices over the last couple of days and weeks. And we're getting the iPads in shape and ready to go out. They've got, just today we got some filtering stuff set up on them. Because that is required by law still. And then we modified our agreement, our Chromebook use agreement for students to take home. With that said, I decided it didn't make sense to collect signatures on those agreements, but we are putting them on the iPads, and there's a list of the things that a parent needs to go through with their elementary student as far as the rules. Some really important rules, and I'm just going to say them because it's a public meeting that people can watch, but it's really important and best practice for all kids to be using technology in a place where other eyeballs can see it. So regardless of the fanciest filtering software in the world, there's nothing like having your parent or your teacher see the screen that you're working on. And so encouraging that, and then also just encouraging kids that, I mean, we all have lots of other devices to do fun things like play games, etc. The school issued devices continue to be for school use. And so they should be used for educational purposes, not for other purposes. And that's all outlined in the agreement. I fully expect some hiccups, particularly with the iPads, because it's like, you know, sometimes you have years to think about this and how we're going to implement it. And this has been weeks, or really days, to try and figure out how these devices can go home. And so I don't necessarily think they're gonna go flawlessly, but we're gonna do our best again to adjust and learn and improve. And so those are kind of the main tech pieces that I had. Any questions on that?
Thank you, Sean. Anybody have any questions or comments? And also, I'm sorry, I forgot to ask if you have questions for Emily as well.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of technology, my camera on this like relatively new computer just bagged out. It's just not going to work. So
Well,
anyway.
It's a pretty good picture that you have up there.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. So next up, we have K-12 principal report. Jackie, I see that you are online and ready to go.
I'll unmute you there, Jackie. I'll let Jackie kind of go first, and then I'll just kind of fill in. We decided kind of we'll just kind of combine these together between principal and superintendent, and we'll go from there.
That's good.
Okay, I almost hit a deer coming home, so a little slow here. On the elementary teacher schedules, Sean will talk more about the secondary. I had each teacher fill out their times, expected times they would be contacting students. I wanted to make sure there weren't any sibling overlaps for connectivity issues. And most of the time, it's going to be pretty brief, but there's going to be a lot of Google Classroom and other types of tech material. We have bags ready to deliver tomorrow on a schedule that they will be coming to pick up for paper packets. So it's a real mix of things from kindergarten up, and we're asking sometimes parents to take pictures of things to prove learning and completion. And we'll be picking up at the lunch delivery point, picking up things kids want to turn in on Wednesdays. So there might be there's that option as well. And like Sean said, this is all kind of new. We're kind of learning it as we go. And the next part is the daily scheduled routines. We have created a suggested routines that they might want to follow, mainly because routine is going to be really healthy for the kids. And it's really difficult sometimes if they're just going to be in their pajamas all day. And if they're online, there's going to be stipulations on, making sure you're dressed just like you would for school. But it just really gave parents kind of an outline of don't expect your kid to work for hours on end, working in some breaks and some snacks and even some household family kinds of activities that are suggested as well. And then the parent communication, as you have seen as parents and board members, you've seen like on FaceTime, on our, not FaceTime so much, but our Facebook pages and messaging platforms and resources that we've been sending out. So we're always going to kind of keep that going without trying to inundate parents with too much information.
So a couple of things there, just kind of from my perspective, that we realized very quickly that the schedule for a kindergartner and comparing that to a senior is going to be much, much different. I think we've focused our staff in the elementary, we focused on having a lot of flexibility for each teacher as an individual. So what they thought as a best practice or how they wanted to build that class. So rather than kind of mandate at a district or a building level what it's supposed to look like, we felt like it was best for those elementary teachers to have that flexibility. Because a kindergarten, even in the elementary, kindergarten versus sixth grade looks incredibly different as far as how we serve. And so when you hear about the secondary, where there's much more kind of video time and kind of a class time, the elementary is going to look different than that. And we tied it in with the idea that we are, and I'll be talking about the lunch stuff in a little bit, but we are we're running those lunch routes, and there's opportunities for paper to work. Or, you know, one of the simplest ways, if you don't want to hand paper back and forth, is to just take a picture of the work that they did and send it in. Parent communication has happened a lot at the district level right now, but I think you're going to see more of a shift now in these coming days to individual teachers. And I want to emphasize with parents that, you know, really the communication as we start to navigate this now has to be between parents and teachers, even more so in the elementary than in secondary, where those kids can kind of take some of those communication roles. But the idea that our teachers and our parents are going to be in constant contact, it is so important. And I talk to the staff about it, to remember that, you know, very few of these parents are expert teachers like what we have at the school. They have jobs, they have stress from this pandemic. There's a lot of stuff going on. And so really early elementary and up, we are focusing on supporting parents in however we can do that. And then also supporting the kids because of that. So we realize that parents aren't going to be able to sit down and have a 7-hour day with their kids. That's just not feasible. And so the other part of that, as we start to transition to talk about secondary, is just being honest with what we think we're able to accomplish. That means some change in the standards of practice that we've had, whether it's grading or other things, but and maybe adjusting, I don't want to say lowering standards, but changing the standards, adjusting the standards to something that's going to fit with what we can do. This isn't the best model. What we were doing was the best model. But we're going to have to make the best out of what we have. So then Jackie brought up the part about student attendance, and this has been a really sticky point in a lot of the webinars that I participate in. The state is providing some guidance, but it is murky at best. There's some built-in stuff in the law for virtual schools as far as attendance. And how do you even begin to calculate attendance? Some of the language that's built into law to help virtual schools is being applied to us. And so while we were canceled from school 2 weeks ago now, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and then also today and tomorrow, there's no learning going on. Those days will be like snow days. The other days there will be learning, and we will be taking a modified form of attendance and using that to report to the state. That is allowed. So the way that the law says is we can take attendance based on participation in class. So that might be something like participating in a video chat, a call, a communication with a teacher, things like that. And then also on assignments completed. So I take that really murky stuff that the state tells me, and I try to guide the staff, because there's lots of questions like, how do I count a kid in attendance? Well, if they're doing the work that they're doing and they're communicating with you, then we are counting them as an attendance. We've talked about a lot, and I've got some other things on my list, but I should pause for a second and see if there's any questions from board members at this point. Okay, I'll take that silence as keep on going. The secondary looks a little bit differently, and Jackie and I have been working on this. I give a shout out to the secondary teachers who really got together and put their heads together about what would look good and what would work. Our secondary schedule is basically a condensed version of our AB schedules. So it is going to run Monday through Thursday, and I'll talk about Friday in a second. Monday through Thursday from 9 in the morning until noon. And so those regular block schedule classes that they were meeting for almost 2 hours, hour and 40 minutes, are now condensed down to a half hour each. And it is designated time for a teacher to do something just like this with their class. Either a Zoom meeting, or really what we're going to is Google Hangouts or Google Meets. So that's that model. Now, every teacher does not have to meet every single day. If they're communicating in other ways, or if they give an assignment on a Monday and then they're supposed to meet again on Wednesday, they might say, hey, look, I don't think we need to meet today. You guys are working. But we wanted to make sure that there wasn't conflicting times to meet. And that's why we set up the schedule like that. So we wanted to make sure that, like, if your history teacher and your math teacher wanted to meet at the exact same time, well, how are you going to attend both of those? And so we're hoping this model works. You would meet twice a week for that half hour, or at least have the option to meet twice a week for that half hour. It gives our high schools, our secondary students, a block of time that they need to kind of set aside every day. 9 to noon is that meeting time. Afternoon would be study time, work time, project time, whatever else you're doing, and it would be a lot more free to the kids. Same with 8 to 9 in the morning. And then Fridays, we're going off of that same model. So with that said, that does not mean that our teachers are going home or turning off their phones and unplugging at noon. Our teachers have been directed to be available from 8 o'clock in the morning until 3 o'clock in the afternoon on phone, on email, or the potential for a one-on-one conversation on a video call. And the same thing is true on Friday. So during those times, our teachers will be planning, prepping, and being available for what I would call office hours. And so again, that's kind of the secondary model. Could there be hiccups with it? For sure. I think the video portion of it is some concern because of internet access overall. I'm hoping that if a certain student can't access internet during a certain time, that is communicated between the teacher and the student, and then we make adjustments to that. Which brings me to breakfast and lunch. That's probably another good pausing point. Jackie, did you have anything else to add with that, with the secondary or attendance?
No, I think if kids, I do know in both elementary and secondary that if kids are not responding, there's going to be individual reaching out by the teachers to those students and parents.
Yeah.
And that was said over and over at the elementary plan, that they will make sure those kids are checking in. And it is a daily check-in, either through parents responding through pictures or questions. And also some grades are doing similar to the high school where they're checking in through Google Classroom.
Yep. Any other questions about that? I mean, I think, like Jackie said, we've really emphasized on if students aren't communicating, especially in the secondary building, then that communication has to start happening with a parent to encourage this. Because it's awfully easy sometimes to use the technology as an excuse. Kids have been doing that when we can see them every day face to face. And so that part's not necessarily going to stop. But we really need to partner with the parents to say, okay, what are the struggles? Let's really try to address them, and then we can have some more success with it. I don't have any expectation that that the teachers are going to cover the same total amount of material. And that's okay, because this has never happened before, and I pray it never happens again. And we're just going to adjust to it. So we're really kind of in a maintenance mode. We want kids to continue to learn. We want them to continue to grow. Are we going to do all the really cool projects and things that we had planned for this spring? No. Do we want kids just stuck in front of a screen for 12 hours a day trying to do a bunch of busy work? No. I've asked staff, we're going to kind of, you have to relook again at what is busy work. What are the essential concepts and ideas that need to be taught still? And so moving forward with that. Breakfast and lunch procedures is the other thing that's on my list. A couple of new things came out. A federal waiver came out that's automatic, and then they've also added some waivers that we can actually apply for at the state level. One of those waivers that I'm really excited about is that we can apply for a waiver to just drop food off at each bus stop location, rather than a common location like we had right now with, like, we went with the Big Butte Schoolhouse, the Moeller, and then Dave and Janice Baldus's parking lot. We struggled with several of the routes, kind of trying to find where a good common sense spot is, and tried to apply a rule of about 10 minutes drive to get there. But that was hard to do. and have a bus sit so that people had a little bit of flexibility with when to pick it up. I think I filled out the application today, and we will submit that if it's not already submitted by Marcy, to kind of get that approved. And then Marcy, I just drew a complete blank on the other. Do you have I don't know if you have a microphone. There's another waiver that we just applied for. I think the other part of the waiver that I think, as we tried to do it today, is that we would move to just serving throughout the week like we were planning on originally, but every day, Monday through Friday, we would just run the lunchtime bus route for pickup. Oh, I know what it was now too. Let's see if Marcy said. Yes, okay. The other waiver that we actually applied for was that it was required that a student had to be there to pick up the meal. They're now allowing us to apply for a waiver that a parent or guardian can pick it up. We had to offer some assurances, and again, I haven't received word that this has been approved, but we still have to submit it. But we have to offer some assurances that, the reason why they have that rule in place is so that somebody doesn't take their kid's meal and then eat it for their own lunch. But just given these circumstances, the USDA has allowed us to apply for a waiver to do that. And I think that will decrease a lot of the burden. I know with my family of 6, it's like, oh, so we're all supposed to go to lunch or breakfast this morning, come up, get the meal, and then walk back home. It really kind of creates a burden. And if, my littlest one, Seth, doesn't want to come up in the morning, and it's snowing in March like it does, it's a hassle. And so with this waiver, we're saying that we will request from the parent or guardian verbally when we hand it to them that those meals are going to the students, and they will verbally confirm that. The other shift that I think we'll do, and we're going to stick with the plan for this week, but is just to provide a lunch and a breakfast every single stop at lunch. So rather than doing this Monday breakfast thing, I visited with Jenny, and she thinks it's perfectly feasible to just start rolling breakfast out every day like we were planning. And even on Fridays, we would give them a breakfast that would cover Monday morning. So you would get your lunch for the day, a hot lunch, which is really nice. I think it was hamburgers today. And then you would get your kind of a cold or just in a brown paper bag breakfast. It normally includes a milk, a cereal, a cheese stick, and some kind of processed fruit is what it would be for the breakfast. And so what I'm hoping with those two approved, we'll probably stick with this model for this week, and then switch to a bus route drop off so that the bus drivers will just drive their route. That is, by state waiver, reimbursable for our transportation. So we can bill that and we get reimbursed by the state, just like they're driving a bus full of kids. And that will also give us a easy way to drop off and pick up materials that need to travel back and forth between the school and people's homes. And so if there's a packet to drop off, that can be handed to the bus driver at 11 o'clock, or by 11 o'clock, they will drive to where they need to go, their whole route, stop where they need to stop to either deliver food or educational materials, and then be back when they're done. They'll just run a single route every day. Any questions about breakfast or lunch or busing?
Thank you, Mr. Teagues. Any questions? I just wanted to say I think you guys have done a great job adapting to this situation so far, and really appreciate you laying it out to the board, the details of the plans and such to date. Polly, did you have a question or comment?
Yeah, could you kind of explain about the lunch? Because, like, do you want people participating?
Yes. Okay, that's a good question.
I mean, you don't
so
necessarily need it, but if you want people to participate, I guess.
Yeah. So before all of this, we're about, we run in the 40 to 50% free and reduced lunch range. And so the way that we fund our program was for people who qualified for free or reduced, we would get a set amount, a dollar amount for every kid when we served them a lunch. that didn't come from the parents, but that came from the federal government, the USDA. And then we also, though, we supplement that program, because that wouldn't be enough to actually operate, by selling lunches to kids and adults that don't qualify for that. And so that, those two numbers, the stuff we got from US reimbursed, and then the students who are buying the lunches, helped us to fund our program. And so that includes the variable costs like the food that we need to serve them, but it also includes paying, Jenny, or just operating the program in general. When we applied for this waiver, even though technically you're supposed to be at 50% to apply for this waiver, we got a waiver for the waiver, and we were at 42%, but they said they shifted us onto a program where every school lunch is free for every kid ages 1 through 18 in our district. That means that if only the people who think that they're free and reduced take a lunch, we lose that potential income kind of with those fixed costs, and taking care of those fixed costs with having a lunch program. And so that's why it's free for all families right now. Free in that, I say that, somebody's paying for it. We're getting reimbursed for each meal, but there's no cost to individual families. And the more that we can have people participate that maybe didn't qualify for free and reduced lunch in the past, the more we get a reimbursement, because that's the only source of income right now. And so if all we were to do is serve free and reduced lunch kids, then all of a sudden that's going to significantly impact our bottom line. And so the more that people can participate, the more reimbursement we get, the better off we are kind of covering and not operating at a loss. Which I guess we may have jinxed ourselves a little bit with this, when I said at the last board meeting that for the first time in a long time we're operating in the black. That might not be the case, but the more people that participate, the closer we will be to operating in the black. And likely, Jenny told me she was probably just today, even kind of given her a little bit of convoluted serving right now with the different pickup sites. I think we're about 20 short of what she normally serves. And so we're getting right up there. And I think if we add, just home delivery like that, I think it'll help that much more. So the more people can participate, the better it will be financially for our district and for our lunch program.
Okay. And
Thank
then,
you. Any
it
more?
will be just on the normal bus schedule. So like you're going to come out to my house?
Yeah, so they'll stop at if it gets approved, and that's still tentative, but if it gets approved, we'll stop at every single bus stop that we have on our list. And I mean, obviously, probably if there's families that just absolutely refuse to participate, then we would skip that route eventually. But to begin with, we would stop at every single stop.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll go on to the action items then. The first one is current calendar changes and updates on the future. And I hope you got your crystal ball out, because
So this is, I'll give a little bit of background here. Currently right now, the State Board of Education has issued this idea of a soft closure, which means no kids in school buildings through April 20th. I expect that to change in the near future. The State Board had a meeting today. They didn't take action on it, but all of the discussion was around extending that. And particularly because last night, President Trump issued some guidance that this will continue through April. And so what I expect right now is for the State Board of Education to continue that, to just extend at least what the president has said through April. And I think they meet again later this week. It's either Wednesday or Thursday. And I imagine that will be on the action agenda for them, the action item agenda for them. And so we have an April 20th that we've been directed by the State Board of Education. I fully expect it to go to the end of April. That we can still instruct kids, but they can't be in our buildings. So we, right away, it's been a couple of weeks ago now, I met with Marcy about where we were at with calendar days and hours. I have that document. It's probably buried here somewhere on my desk. But I went through and basically for the kids, because every grade level has kind of different requirements for the hours that they serve. The smallest amount of extra days that we had built in, I calculated it to days, is the senior class, the graduating class. And throughout our whole calendar, we build a schedule so they actually get 11 more days worth of instruction than the minimum that the state requires. And so we, at this point, will have only canceled 5 days without instruction, 3 days before spring break, and now 2 days after spring break. So we're actually still safe on that. There is the potential, if we had to stop instruction or something like that, that we would have to apply for a waiver, which I would assume would be granted, given all the communication that I've had, to kind of say, we didn't meet those hours requirements, can we still graduate kids? And the state board would have to approve that. But so that's kind of the lay of that land as far as the number of days that we have. What I would, propose on, I guess I probably shouldn't have even left this as an action item. I put together this agenda too fast maybe, but I don't know that it takes any specific action because the next action items would take care of it. But that we would close, provide no services during those 5 days, and that the board would approve it. And then the second thing that I have on that agenda is that we would approve then shifting to this soft closure idea, or that we would continue to provide instruction and therefore we don't have to count those days as lost.
Thank you. I had a question
Mhm.
that kind of came up in my mind when you were talking about the teachers and the days. If a teacher gets sick, are we going to give some training ahead of time to substitute teachers so that they could step in and take a role?
It's a good question. It did get brought up. Kind of what we thought right now is that if that were to happen, we would plan on covering it with other staff members to kind of help out. But it might be something worth continuing to look at. Like maybe we do want to get maybe a sub or somebody else that would be available in that instance.
Thank you. Any other questions on upcoming calendar or on any of this so far that might have come up in your mind? Okay, seeing none, then we'll go to the next item, which is the approval of closure dates. I put a motion, just to have something to look at in the group chat there. And what it says is that we suspend Nesfer School. Oh no, excuse me. That's the second motion. There. We approve emergency closure from 18 to the 30th, but start online instruction April 2nd. Maybe we need to change that a little bit, but that's what I wanted to give us a starting point to consider that.
And my recommendation at this point, I guess there's two things to consider. You could consider, I fully expect the state board to go to April 30th. So that's fairly easy to do. And I think it makes sense. The other consideration date-wise is to just say we're going to be operating under the soft closure until the next board meeting at least, which would be the, I don't have it up on my.
13th.
The 13th. So that would be one other consideration, is to operate. So actually you have April 30th on there. Oh yeah, April 30th. Oh yeah, I think we're okay. I think the 30th makes sense. I don't know what I'm saying.
Well, that was the guidelines, the most recent, and I think you're right that they'll accept it. We could just make it till the board meeting and then extend it at the board meeting we would know more than what the state's recommending at the board meeting, but
right.
Anyway, these are
And that's
kind of,
actually, as I say that, I mean, the state board has already issued April 20th, which gets us past the regular board meeting. There is just one thought. I know it came up in our regional, we're meeting as regional superintendents several times a week. But I'm a little hesitant about getting way, way out there. So do I think that this is going to last a while? Yes. When you start sending a message that we're going to be closed until June or something like that, then people think about it differently, and you might lose focus on the things that we're trying to do. So, smaller little bites, but reasonable, so that we're not meeting all the time to rediscuss the same thing, I think is a good thing. And I would be in favor of the April 30th. I think that's a good recommendation.
I don't think we should get outside of what
Yeah.
either the state or the federal
Right.
recommends.
Yep.
Board members, do you have opinions, or would someone like to make a motion one way or the other?
So do you want us to make the motion for just that second part?
Yeah, you could entertain a motion for, as I wrote it there, but if you'd like to change it to be just April 20th as the current recommendation is from the state, that'd be fine. Either way, we're going to have to, we'll have to address it in our 13 meeting anyway, so.
Okay. Well, I move to approve the emergency closure of Nez Perce School District schools from March 18th, 2020 to April 30th, 2020 because of the COVID-19 coronavirus. Online instruction will commence on April 2nd and continue as long as school closure.
Thank you. Do you have a second?
I'll second it, but she did say April 30th, didn't she, Polly? Did you read that as April 30th rather than the 20th?
Yeah.
She said April 30.
So
that'd be the motion unless you want to amend it or something.
yeah, I say go ahead and leave it at that. It looks like that's probably going to be what happens anyway. So I'll second it.
Thank you. Discussion, and I'll point out that even if they did some kind of miracle happen and they stuck with the 20th, then we could have changed that at our 13 meeting as well.
Yeah.
Any other discussion on the motion? Okay, since we're doing this online, we're going to change our voting procedures to voice vote. So all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, then that passed unanimously. Next item on the agenda is approval of the distance learning options as presented to us for special ed students. I think that's just a simple motion on that line. Would someone like to make a motion to approve those options as they were presented to us tonight?
So moved.
Thank you, Carrie. Second?
I'll second.
Okay, I don't know who, I think Quinn got the jump on that one. So Quinn seconded that. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. No opposed. Our last action item is, and then just put in our school board name and stuff, sees that conflict with state or federal law, because the state and federal law has, adjusted language from the School Board Association.
I can't even say that I know all of them at this point. My best example is the ISAT that we hatches that. Well, now the state says you don't have, there's that potential conflict of where, is going to violate as these federal laws, a statement in our policy anyways, but to formally say that policies that are in conflict with these changing state and federal laws.
Thank you. Any discussion? We entertain a motion to suspend policies that
conflict.
Thank you. Is it okay to use of your motion?
Yes.
Okay. That's unanimous. Thank you all for doing this as well. Good to read the Idaho Ed News. Everyone have a good, I need to have a, I see Sean looking like he wants to.
I was just closure. I just want to make sure that we need to approve that we'll need board minutes that say that those in the soft closure April 30th. Rest in one more motion to specifically close today and tomorrow 30 and 31.
adjourn for friendly retreat. Who moved to adjourn?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right, wrap over in his grave. March 8th, April
March,
1st,
March,
but went over spring break, so that's why it's set. 18th to the 31st then, Sean?
that's fine because we
Okay.
didn't have the spring break on our calendar that we to the state. So yes.
Okay, 18 to 31 March. Went to second.
I'll
I
second.
don't think there probably is since we already kind of did it, but okay, all in favor, please
Aye.
say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you. So that should cover us now between those two motions.
Yes, I think we're good there.
All right, good. I kind of wondered, I
Yeah.
copied that from the state and I thought it was combining them. Carrie had made a motion. Would you like to restate that?
Move we adjourn.
Thank you. And Polly say
I say
aye.
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 Have a good evening. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
too.
everyone.
Thanks. Thank you, Sean and Jackie and everyone for putting this all together. It's amazing, really.
Next best thing to be in there.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
You
All
too.
right.
See you guys.
Bye.